दक्षिणामूर्ति समारंभां शंकराचार्य मध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्य पर्यन्तां वंदे गुरु परंपराम्. Namaste friends. This is the second video in the series covering Panchadasi. We covered the introduction to Panchadasi in the first video and started the first chapter, Tattva Viveka. So this is in continuation of the first chapter. Now the first chapter here starts with the avasthas, the three avasthas, Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti, waking, dream and deep sleep states. We experience innumerable objects in this world through our sense organs in the waking state. The objects are different from one another, but the consciousness behind the senses, which is different from the objects experienced, is only one. The consciousness of A is not different from that of B or C. Since consciousness by itself has no distinguishing features, it cannot vary from person to person. Now this is the same in the case with the dream state, Swapna Avastha also. The objects experienced in dream are transient and disappear when the waker wakes up. But the objects experienced in the waking state are relatively permanent. But the consciousness in both the states is the same. When a person wakes up from deep sleep, he remembers that he slept happily and did not know anything during his sleep. Remembrance is possible only of objects experienced earlier, and it is therefore clear that in deep sleep, absence of knowledge and happiness are experienced. The same consciousness is present in all the three states, as is proved by the fact that a person identifies himself as the same in all the three states. This consciousness is thus the same in all persons and at all times. It is therefore only one and eternal, without any beginning or without any end. It is self-revealing and does not need another light to reveal itself or its objects. Now this consciousness is what alone remains unchanged in all the three states. The sense organs are not present in the dream state, and the mind itself is not experienced in deep sleep. Therefore, this consciousness is the unchanging essence of every living being, and it is therefore called the Self. This Self or essence of all living beings is of the nature of supreme bliss, for it is the object of unconditional love. All other objects and persons are loved only if they are conducive to our own happiness. Even our own body may be disliked when it causes suffering, but the Self is never disliked. On the other hand, it alone is the perennial object of love. Of course, sometimes a person may say that he hates himself and wants to put an end to suffering, put an end to his life. But that is because he identifies himself with his body, which is the cause of suffering due to disease, poverty, or any other reasons. If the same person is told that the problem which is afflicting him so much will be removed, immediately he will leave the desire of wanting to commit suicide. So from the fact that the Self is the object of the highest love, it follows that it is of the nature of the highest bliss. since what every human being wants always is happiness. All other things, such as money, home, children, wealth, etc., are desired only because they are expected to make the person happier. But happiness is desired for its own sake. So it has been established by reasoning that the individual self is of the nature of existence, consciousness, and bliss. Sat Chit Ananda. The Upanishads declare that the Supreme Brahman is also of the same nature, and that the individual self and Supreme Brahman are the same. Now, if an object exists at a particular place but is not actually seen, it must be due to some obstruction such as darkness or something like a wall which is in between. Similarly, there must be some obstruction because of which the self, even though existing, is not revealed to us. This obstruction is called as avidya. This avidya is beginningless in the sense that we cannot know how and when it originated, because it is logically prior to time. Now, Prakriti is composed of the three gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and has in it the reflection of Brahman, which is pure consciousness and bliss. Now, this Prakriti is of two kinds. When the element of Sattva is pure, it is called as Maya. When it is impure due to the mixture of Rajas and Tamas, it is called Avidya. So Brahman reflected in Maya is the omniscient Ishvara who controls Maya. Brahman reflected in Avidya is the Jiva who is under the control of Maya. So Jivas are innumerable in number and are of different grades of evolution due to the different degrees of admixture of Rajas and Tamas. Avidya is the causal body or the Karana Sharira of the Jiva. The word Sharira means that which is perishable. Avidya is called Sharira or body because it will cease to exist when self-realization or Gnana happens. It is called Karana or causal because it is the cause of the subtle and gross bodies. When the Jiva identifies himself with the causal body or the Karana Sharira, it is called as Prajna. This happens in the state of deep sleep, when the senses as well as the mind cease to function, or in a state of Laya and there is only Avidya. Now, at the command of Ishvara, the five subtle elements, that is space, air, fire, water, and earth, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala, Prithvi. These five elements arose from the part of Prakriti in which Tamas predominates, in order that every Jiva may have experiences in accordance with its karma. The five subtle organs of sense, namely that of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell, arose from the Sattva part of the five subtle elements, the five Panchamahabhutas. From a combination of the Sattva part of all the five subtle elements arose this Antakarana or the mind. Though it is only one, the mind is given different names according to the different functions which is performed by it. Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chitta. These are the four functions of the Antakarana. The decision-taking function is called as the Buddhi or the intellect. The storing of information and experiences function is called as the Chitta. The notion of I-ness is called as the ahankara or the ego. And the mind which thinks is called as the function of thinking is called as the manas or mind. So from the rajas part of the subtle elements, there arise the subtle organs of action. The organ of speech arises from the rajas part of akasha, space. The hands arise from the rajas part of vayu. The feet arises from the rajas part of agni. The organ of excretion arises from the rajas part of jala, water. And the genital organ rises from the rajas part of prithvi, earth. So this, it should be noted, are not the physical organs which we referred to, but they are the subtle counterparts in the subtle body. So the presiding deities of these organs are Agni, Indra, Vishnu, Yama and Prajapati. Now from a combination of the rajas part of all the 5 subtle elements, prana arises. Prana or the vital air. Now prana is also subdivided into 5 parts according to the 5 different functions. Same like Antakarna. Here also it is divided. Here it is divided into 5 different functions performed by it. Prana, Apana, Samana, Udana, Vayana. Now this the functions are in brief. Prana is the main thing. Now Apana is engaged in the work of ejecting waste products from the body. Prana is the Raja, the king, and resides in the eyes and ears and issues out through the mouth and nostrils. The Samana is located in the navel and it assimilates all that is eaten, all food and drink. It is assimilated through the Samana and it is distributed equally in all parts of the body. That is, it's mainly dealing with digestion. Udana, it moves throughout the body and functions. At the time of death, it is said that Udana leads the soul out of the body at the time of death and takes it to the worlds according to its punya and papa. The Vayana, it regulates both prana and apana and is the cause of actions which require strength. So these are about the 5 functions of the prana. The 5 organs of the 5 sense organs, the 5 organs of action, the 5 vital airs, the mind, that is Antakarna, all these 17 together constitute the subtle body, which is called as Sukshma Sharira or the Linga Sharira. So when the Jiva identifies itself with the subtle body, with the Sukshma Sharira, it is known as Taijasa. So this happens in the state of dream. This is Jiva identifying with the Sukshma Sharira. When Ishvara identifies with the totality of all the Sukshma Shariras, it is known as Hiranyagarbha. So the individual aspect is known as Taijasa, the cosmic aspect is known as the collective aspect is known as the Hiranyagarbha. So it is like the individual and the collective. Hiranyagarbha is also called Samasti or totality. Taijasa identifies only with its own subtle body and it is called as Vyasti or the individual. So after the 5 subtle elements came into existence, a process of combination of the elements takes place. This is called as Panchikaranam or quintuplication. So each subtle element is first divided into 2 equal halves. One of the half of each element is then divided into 4 equal parts, resulting in 4 1/8 part of each element. The other half of each element then combines with 1/8 of each of the other elements. So 1/2 of the element Prithvi combines with 1/8 of each of the other 4 elements to become the gross element Prithvi. The same happens with the other elements. This may sound complicated. You need not go so much in detail. If you are more interested in this aspect, you can read the Prakarana Grantha Panchikarana by Shankaracharya. So each, what happens is that each gross element has half of itself and 1/8 of each of the other 4 elements. Now the gross element Prithvi is 50% Prithvi and 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8 of the other 4 elements. That is air, fire, water and space. So all the gross objects that we experience in the universe and all the gross bodies are created out of these 5 gross elements. So Ishvara, when he identifies himself with the totality of gross bodies, is known as Vaishvanara, the collective aspect. And when the Jiva identifies himself with his own gross body, it is known as Vishwa, the individual aspect. Vishwa, Vaishvanara, Tejasa, Hiranyagarbha. So the Jivas go helplessly from one birth to another. In the same way, a simile is given in the Panchadasi, in the same way as worms that have fallen into a river and are swept from one whirlpool to another. As a result of good deeds performed in many births, a particular Jiva may be fortunate to receive the grace of a Guru from a Brahmanishta. Then, after Shravana, he differentiates the self from the 5 sheets which makes up his gross and subtle bodies and attains the supreme bliss of liberation. Now the 5 koshas, the 5 sheets, the panchakoshas are those of the food, vital air, mind, intellect and bliss. Or the Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha and the Anandamaya kosha. The Jiva is said to be enveloped in these 5 sheets, identifies himself with them and forgets his real nature. This is the cause of repeated births and deaths and is known as the samsara chakra. So we'll continue further with it's quite a big chapter. We'll continue further in the next video. Namaskaram.